welcome to my channel. Today we will be doing a 2023 wrap-up of all the books that I read. It's about 28 books. I think it's 28 books. Let's get right into it. I'm so excited, and these books, there's a roller coaster of them. I tell you, there's almost every single genre in here, and it's just, there's some younger books and older books. I don't know what I was thinking in 2023, but yeah, let's just go. Okay, so our first book is Go the Distance by Jen Kalantia. I made notes of all the books on my iPad. I rated this one 5 stars. It basically is Hercules becomes a god and doesn't want to leave Meg. So Meg goes on to become a god after telling Hercules go live his destiny. And Meg, she feels a little bit sad about having to leave him, and obviously Hercules feels sad. So she goes to find a way to be a god, which she knows is possible. So that's really just her journey of how, of her going off and trying to become a god and completing all these quests with Hercules' friends and just trying to get back to Hercules. Okay, this one is The Land of Stories Worlds Collide. This is the last book of the Land of Stories series by Chris Colfer. I rated this one 5 stars, probably my favorite book of the whole series. I can't say that a whole lot about it because it's the last book. But pretty much all the fairy tale characters must come together to save not only their world, but also the human world in which the two main characters are from. They have the ability to go from the fairy tale world and the human world back and forth. So the bad guys found a portal or whatever to get to the other world, so now it's up to those two and the fairy tale characters to save this world. With the help of not only these two characters, but a few other real world characters and just all of their friends. So this is a roller coaster and I absolutely love it. There's a hint of romance, but it's itty bitty, but it's so cute and I love it. It had me giggling and kicking my feet. This book I hold near and dear to my heart because it's Purple Heart Broken Heart, written by my grandma, Carol A. Huff. You might have seen in a few other videos that I posted way before these, I was reading her other book, Adelia. This book I rated it 5 stars. We just got a visitor. It's about my great-great-uncle, and his journeys through the war. It's a historical fiction book. There's a few fantasies in this book. Sorry, I gotta let my dog back out. It's basically his life, and he met the love of his life, but he couldn't stay with her because he had to go back to the States and she had to stay there. And it's just his journey before the war, during the war, and after the war, and it's absolutely fantastic. I recommend it to everybody. These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I rated this one 3.5 stars. It was really good, and it had a little bit of a hint of romance with kind of a second chance romance is what that romance was, but it wasn't my favorite. It's about two gangs that are always pinned against each other and are always fighting until one day they have to come together to defeat this monster who's been slowly spreading this serious disease around everywhere, and it's killing a lot of people, so they have to fight it off. The reason why it's so low is because the monster creeped me out and its disease was disgusting to me. I feel like there should be a trigger warning on this book, so I will give it a trigger warning for this book. If you want to read this book, just be aware that the monster has bugs that it every time it comes into land, those bugs shed off itself and embeds people, and it's like lice, but it embeds and slowly eats their brains. So I'm sorry, but trigger warning for this book. Next book is Reflection by Elizabeth Lim. This is the second book that we have of the Twisted Tale series. I rated this 2.5 stars. One of my lower books. I did not care for this. Basically is Mulan and Shang. They are fighting together and Shang gets really hurt and he's about to die, so Mulan doesn't want that to happen because she cares so much about him. So she finds a way into the underworld to find his soul and pretty much save him before sunrise. So this all happens in one night, which I think is wow. But yeah, she just enlists help of other souls, of other people that have died, and it just wasn't for me, but it was cool-ish. This is Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. I'm not very good at names, I'm so sorry. I rated this 5 stars. Pretty much the main girl, every touch that, like anyone that she touches or touches her, it's fatal. But it's all fatal until one day, it doesn't affect this one dude. And it's kind of like a second chance romance, because she kind of like befriends this guy and then he like disappears for a while, or like betrays her. I can't really say, can't say much without spoiling it. And then they meet up again at some point, and it's just a really good read. Okay, the next book is Divergent by Veronica Roth. I rated it 5 stars. So pretty much this year has a lot of 5 stars, just a fair warning. So pretty much this girl has to choose like which group she's gonna be in. I'm not really sure how to like describe it, but once she does, she has to leave her whole family and she has to live with them, but she has to be accepted into her little group thing. But as she does that, she discovers that one of the other groups is trying to take over the whole city, so now she has to work on being accepted in that, but also she has to help save the city along with some of her friends. And there's a little bit of romance in this one. I actually don't mind it because it is a hint, but it's enough of a hint that it's cute. So I know it's been around for a while, like since like 2011, but I just now got to it and it was really good. Is Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. It's the second book in the Shadow and Bone series, and if you've watched the series on Netflix, good for you, but the books are so much better. I was so angry at the Netflix series after reading these, because a lot of the details they did not put in the series on Netflix, and there's so much more in the books. Oh my goodness, it was so good. I rated this one 5 stars. Can't say much about it though, because it's the second book of the series, but pretty much her powers are growing, and she's on the run from her enemy with her lover, and they can't run for long, so obviously they get not attacked, but they encounter the enemy again. But they thankfully have the help of a pioneer, Stormhound. I don't really know how to say it, but he is willing to help them for a price. So good. Recommend this book. Oh my god, it's my favorite out of the trilogy. So good. So White Ivy is another good read. I rated it 4.5 stars. It's by Susie Yang. It's pretty much about this girl that, I can't remember much of it though, but it's about this girl who grows up with this crush on this boy, and they grow apart, and she doesn't see him for a while until years later, she meets his sister at some event, and her sister reintroduces her to her childhood crush, and they just kind of hit it off from there. But as the story progresses, there's a lover from her past that comes back, and I read this in 2 days. It was so good, but it just was a little choppy for me, so that's why I said 4.5 stars instead of a full 5 stars. Let's see. Our next book is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I rated this 5 stars. It's about this girl who has kind of like not that best of a life. Then all of a sudden this guy dies, who she doesn't even know this guy, and gives his whole fortune to her, even though he has either 4 sons or 4 grandsons, I can't remember. But pretty much their whole house is a puzzle, and that puzzle is so that she can get the fortune, but she has to enlist the help of all 4 of the grandsons or the sons, something like that. And I kind of got a hint of a small romance, not fully, but I also haven't read the rest of the series. I don't think I'm going to, because this book was so good. I don't want the rest of the series to ruin it, but that will be a future read problem. Conceal Don't Feel by Jen Conlita. It's part of the Twisted Tales series. I rated this one 5 stars. pretty much Elsa and Anna don't know each other, and they're like, I can't really say that much without spoiling it, but one day in this book, Elsa's parents die, which is technically like their parents, but that's how the movie predicts it. But that's the twist in this book, is there's Elsa's parents die, and now she has to grow up and be the queen, but also she discovers like there's a curse over Arendelle, and so now she has to break that curse as well. And it was so good because you got like the two perspectives between Elsa and Anna, and eventually like they're sisters. They feel some sort of connection. Like Elsa feels like a part of her is missing, and so does Anna, and they're both on the same journey to find that connection. Okay, so this book is Cinder, and I rated this 5 stars. It's by Marissa Meyer. So it's another twisted tale, not part of the Twisted Tale series, but it's twisted story of Cinderella, and pretty much Cinderella's a cyborg, and her dream is to like be a really good mechanic, and she still has everything like she normally would: evil stepsisters, evil stepmother. She has no interest in marrying the prince at all, just pretty much mechanics and getting away from that life that she lives. Well, one of her sisters she is actually kind of closer to, kind of if you watch the other Cinderella, like the sequel of Cinderella, she's close with Anastasia. That's kind of what happens in here, and there's like a deadly sickness that's going around in her city, and her sister has it, and pretty much it's a whole story about like how she wants to get away, but she like I don't know how to explain it without spoiling it. It's so good, but that's now this one is for the Alice in Wonderland readers. This is Unbirthday, part of the Twisted Tale series by Liz Barswell. I rated this 1.5 stars. I'm so sorry, but I barely could get through it. I finished it, but it's a twist that I just don't really care for. Pretty much, the Queen of Hearts is evil, and she's trying to take over the whole world, but she's pretty much murdering a bunch of people, and it's just not very pleasant, and it's now up to Alice to save Wonderland and save her friends from being killed, who are also on the run because apparently they did something wrong, and so the queen is after them. That is what this book is, and it's kind of thick, so not my favorite. I am so sorry. Okay, now we have Icebreaker. Icebreaker, I rated this one, let's see if I can find it first. Oh, Icebreaker. I rated this 4.5 stars. It's by Hannah Grace. Both the main characters go to the school, pretty much, and they both have their own hockey arena, but a senior prank gone too far melts one of the arenas, so now they're forced to share it, and it's kind of like Grumpy and Sunshine romance. I rated this 4.5 stars because it was a little bit too much of smut for me. I didn't know there was a limit before I read this book. So just a fair warning for this one. But it is Grumpy Sunshine, enemies to lovers kind of book. I love that vibe. Okay, next on that same path is Twisted Love. Twisted Love, I rated 5 stars. It's by Anna Huang. It's enemies to lovers, brother best friend. I don't know what category to put this in because this fits in honestly so many. But I said Grumpy Sunshine, brother's best friend, and enemies to lovers. Pretty much, she lived right next door to her brother. Well, her brother goes away for a little while, the main character. And so his best friend moves in, and then she tries to be as welcoming as she can be, and then he's not, and then the whole story unravels, and it's so good. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, some of the books are in unhaul too, so this is another one of those unhauls. It's Thin Wood Walls. It was a quick read, but I think it's for a little bit kids that are younger than I am. I rated this 3.5 stars. It's by David Tenuto, and I'm not sure. It's historical fiction, and it's about this family that is Japanese, and it's right after Pearl Harbor, and so they get sent to a concentration camp, and pretty much their whole life changes, and it's just this little boy's life through this concentration camp with his brother who went off to war to fight this because his brother feels it's wrong for his people to be seen the way that they are now, even though they were in the States before this even happened. So to me, it wasn't my favorite, but it was kind of heartwarming. But I think this is more for kids younger than me. Now, this one, Izzy and Tristan. It's by Shannon Dunlap. I rated this 4.5 stars. I read this one in 2 days. When I say that I read this fast, I read it fast. It's so good. Pretty much about, I don't know what to say about it. Really, it's a high school romance. I know I loved it, but it was, whenever I picked it up off the shelf, I was like, I'll give it a try. I don't really know how to summarize it in a good way. It's just one of those books. But it's pretty much like a high school romance. This kid moves to town and kind of falls for this super sweet, kind of more popular girl, and she falls for him. It's such a cute little story, but I hate the ending. Be prepared for the ending. It is not my favorite, and I almost threw the book across the room when I found out what the ending was. So just a warning about the ending. I did forget to mention that I am also unhauling this book because of how bad the ending was. But it's still a really good read up until the ending, which is like the last 2 pages. So if you don't want to hear the ending, don't read the last chapter or so. But that will be an unhaul for me. Next book is Mirror Mirror. I don't know if you can see it really well. But Mirror Mirror, part of the Twisted Tale series. It's by Jen Kalita. I rated it 4 stars. Pretty much it's hold on. I need to get a drink of water. Oh, okay. Pardon me. So Mirror Mirror is about like Cinderella, or no, not Cinderella, Snow White. So sorry. But she doesn't get poisoned. Instead, she figures out, I think, the plan, or she doesn't get killed. She's about to get killed, but she doesn't. So she runs, find the dwarves. But while she's in the woods, she comes across her prince, which I don't really know. This part was a little iffy for me. I don't know how to like fully describe it to you because I was a little bit confused myself. But she meets the prince. They kind of hit it off a little bit. Well, then the prince says something that sparks Snow White's interest, so now they go off on this little journey together, and that's just how the story unravels, and I can't really say much more without spoiling it. So that's this book. Recommend it. I rated it 4 stars just because it wasn't that good for me, but I'm still gonna keep it because it was so good. Okay, now this book. It's a 2-in-1 book, and my dad wanted me to read it for as long as he could remember. He read it when he was little. It's White Fang. So this book is by Jack London. This one specifically has The Call of the Wild and White Fang in it. I just read White Fang, but I rated that 4.5 stars. It's pretty much about a young wolf cub's perspective, which is so intriguing to me. So the young wolf cub gets adopted by Indians, but the Indians already have their own dogs, and the dogs kind of reject White Fang. So he becomes distrustful to humans and is a very violent dog, especially after losing his mom. I'm not gonna say that. Especially after losing his mom whenever he was little. But this all, like, it's about his life, and then one day a person comes. He still doesn't trust him, but that person is determined to earn his trust back and give him a good life that he deserves. So White Fang, really, really good. I recommend it. The next book I am unhauling. I will tell you why in a little bit. But this is A Promise for Brianna. It's by Al Lacey. It's kind of a Christian religion book kind of thing. There's a lot of like God phrases and references in it, like verses of the Bible. I rated this 3.5 stars. I don't know if I said that or not. But pretty much a girl sets off to live like her dream as becoming a doctor or a really, really high achieving nurse, which she is a really, really high achieving nurse. Throughout her whole life, she helps many people on her journey, on their journey in this small little town. She saves so many people's lives and so many births, but the only person to actually save her life in the middle of a storm was her lover that then disappeared for years. And it switches perspectives between her hers and his, they both keep thinking about each other for years after this, until one day he rescues her again, and their story is so cute. But I recommend this because it's so good. But I am unhauling it just because it doesn't really fit any of my other books. Even though it was good, I feel like I could have rented it from the library, and I don't really like to typically do that, but so that's this one. I still recommend it. It is still really good though. It is Part of Your World by Liz Braswell. I rated it 5 stars. Twisted Tales series also. The Little Mermaid is what this is based off of. Pretty much it's what if Ursula still married the prince? Like what if Ariel didn't stop her in time? So pretty much it's Ursula's ruling the kingdom, and she not only wants to rule Eric's kingdom, but she wants to rule the sea and all the other kingdoms in like the human world. So now it's up to Ariel, who is desperate to find her father, whom she knows is still on land. So she's, right after the wedding, Ariel's determined to go find her father. But now, after discovering Ursula's plan, she has to save her kingdom, because her sisters have elected her queen, since she is the reason why her father is now how her father is. So now she has to save her world, Eric's world, the rest of the human world, and find her father. And it's so good. It was a really fast read for me, and it was a page turner. It was so good. Next book is A Touch of Darkness, which I think I rated, I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure it's a 5-star read. Yes, I rated it 5 stars. By Scarlett St. Clair. It gives a modern touch to the lives of Hades and Persephone, but still with their god element. So pretty much Persephone gets into a contract with Hades, who she can't break the contract without like giving up her soul or something really, really major like that. But pretty much the contract is, she has to make life to the underworld, which she can't really do. And she's like, how am I supposed to do that? You tricked me, yada, 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 yada. That's pretty much her throughout the whole book, is a romance between her and Hades. It's like forbidden lovers, because Persephone's mom does not agree to this relationship, not marriage, but she really wants it, and she wants to explore her own powers in the underworld. So it's pretty much like love and also like female accomplishment through this whole thing, while she's also balancing like another job. But that is just a minor detail in the book. This next one is Salt to the Sea, which I rated 5 stars. It's by Ruta Sepetys. Not sure, I'm so sorry. It's a historical fiction book. So there's 4 different stories happening all at once. It switches perspectives, so the chapters are pretty short. But pretty much they're all fleeing their own countries or their own place in this time of war to head, I think, to the US all at the same time. And it's so cute. Okay, our next book is The Land of Stories. This is the 5th book of the series. I rated this 4.5 stars. It's by Chris Colfer. I mentioned earlier the 6th book, but this is the 5th book. And pretty much this masked man, which is like the villain, he took over the fairy tale world and is like ruling that place. So none of the fairy tale characters can help the 2 main characters now, who are Connor and Bailey, who are like humans. So they have to go into Connor's stories that he has written and gain the trust of his characters to help save the whole fairy tale world. And then I can't say much about it because I already said stuff about the 6th book. So that's the 5th book. In a similar situation, this is Ruin and Rising. And the 3rd book of the Shadow and Bone series, I rated this 5 stars by Lee Bertigo. So pretty much the world rests in Alina, the main character's shoulders, and she must defeat the most powerful being in the whole nation or world with the help of everybody that she knows, who's helped her through her journey in her life and along with her lover. And her only hope of saving the world is her magic and her finding the 3rd amplifier. Amazing twist in this book. I will not ever stop raving about how bad the Netflix series is compared to the books. The books, so good. I never wanted to put it down. I wanted to stay in the world. I read this like in December. I still like have dreams about this book. I love this book and the second book, but the characters in these, I've never felt the connection like with the book, like what other booktubers have said. That's this book for me. Like, people say it about Divine Rivals, like, oh my gosh, I never could get my head out of it. That's this book for me. It's so good. There's another book very, very similar to how I feel right now that I will be doing in my January wrap-up, because I'm late to the trend of the 2023 wrap-up. So I'm doing that now. Oh my goodness sakes, this is so, so good. Please just get through the first book. The first book, I know a lot of people can't get through because of how, like, kind of slower it is, and it's just nothing really happens very much, and you're still trying to figure out who the characters are. Get past that, and the second and third book are heaven. Oh my goodness, I will not ever stop raving about that book. And that whole series, except for the first book. I don't really care for the first book. Okay, now our last book is part of the Twisted Tale series, and it's What Once Was Mine by Liz Braswell. Rated this 4.5 stars. So pretty much it's about Rapunzel's mom. If she drank the wrong flower, which she did in this book, which gave Rapunzel the opposite power of what she's supposed to have. Rapunzel's supposed to have the power of, like, healing with her hair. Well, in this book, it kills people. So pretty much she's been locked into a tower of fear of her hair, and just because Mother Gothel doesn't want her killing anybody else and all of herself. So one day she decides, you know, I'm just gonna go on an adventure. I'm tired of being in this tower. So she escapes the tower. Either, I don't remember if Flynn actually comes in this book. I think she kind of escapes by herself. And then she meets Flynn and somebody else who, now she's like on adventures with them, and she's on a journey to discover why her hair is this way and if there is any way for it to stop. But it's a really good book. I'm honestly surprised. With Liz Braswell Twisted Tales books, I was kind of iffy about them. But there's still 2 books in the Twisted Tale series that I have yet to have, which I'm a little frustrated by. There is 2 more I have yet to read. It's Straight On Till Morning and So This Is Love. That will come whenever it comes. But there's 2 more, and I think it's Pinocchio's and Almost There, which is Tiana's. I don't remember Pinocchio's title. Those are the only ones that I have yet to have. So, that was my 2023 book wrap-up. I will be doing a January wrap-up here soon. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope I encourage you to either read more or just read one of the books that I mentioned. So, yeah. Bye!